Hello, and welcome to today's video. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I found very, very interesting. So if you've been in any sort of alternative health space, you've probably heard that the soils are depleted and they don't have the minerals that they used to have in them like 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago. So the food that we eat can't really be compared to the food that our grandparents, our great grandparents ate because there's just simply a different amount, a lower amount of minerals in these foods now. And this always concerned me. And I thought, oh, well, I will just eat organic and then that would be fine, right? Because organic means it's going to have more minerals because you're not using pesticides that bind to these minerals. And just doing organic alone is going to be enough and it's going to make sure the minerals are there. And that's actually not true. And I did not understand why. It didn't make sense to me. But since buying my house, and we have like a little garden outside, a little garden, it's actually quite a big space. We're doing a lot of like gardening there. And this has led me to do a lot of research about how soils work, how plants grow. And it gave me this really interesting understanding that I want to share with you today because it's been quite like a breakthrough. Like it really revolutionized how I understand the nutrient levels, especially minerals inside the foods that we eat. So I want to share this new insight with you. And I also want to tell you what to do about it, because I don't want to just give you this doom and gloom kind of situation and be like, oh, well, there's nothing you can do about it. So you're just going to get sick and you're going to die. I can actually tell you exactly what to do. And it doesn't mean you have to buy your own land. It doesn't mean you have to grow your own crops. There are some supplements, some things that we can take to address these deficiencies. So I'm going to give you everything that I've learned and I'm going to tell you exactly how we fix this. So the real problem here is actually in the idea of how we grow food now, and we basically till the soil. This is the real big issue. This is the biggest problem that we have. So the way that it usually works nowadays is a farmer will decide he wants to plant some sort of crop. Say he wants to plant corn, or he wants to plant wheat, or he wants to plant something. And basically they will just till the ground. So this is where they basically go with a tractor and they have like a machine that basically just kind of like blends the surface of the ground. It basically makes a surface where there's no growth. So you can plant stuff in there and it's more likely that seeds that you plant are going to be able to outgrow any of the other like weed seeds that are in there. It's kind of like a nuclear bomb, it like creates this flat, like even terrain with nothing growing, and it gives the seeds that you're going to plant a kind of even playing ground so that they might develop fast. And with conventional agriculture, they'll also do this and then like spray like a whole bunch of chemicals to stop those weeds from growing. With organic farming, they still do that. They just don't use chemicals. They use what they call organic pesticides or organic fertilizers. So these are still the same thing, basically, kind of like a chemical concoction made from natural substances. So it's usually it's like plants and stuff, but it's the same philosophy. It's just like how when it comes to like healing, now we've got this kind of like natural method, but instead you're still looking at it through the same lens of, okay, I'm not going to take the antibiotic, but I'm going to take an antimicrobial herb instead. You're still following the same paradigm. You're still following that same kind of like logical thought process of, I have a problem, this pill is the solution. And in the context of farming, it's the same thing. We're saying, okay, we're just going to, instead of using pesticide that is chemical in nature, like a glyphosate or aminopyrrolid or some kind of chemical compound, we're just going to swap it out and use a more natural alternative, but it's still the same philosophy. They're still tilling, they're still spraying the food with the chemicals, even though they're natural chemicals, but it's the same kind of thought process. It's the same logic behind it. And this is what causes a problem with the mineral levels, because soil, when it has things growing in it, is very good at holding on to nutrients. It holds nitrogen, it holds minerals, it holds lots of different things that are important for plants to grow, but also for plants to be nutrient dense and to be very nourishing for us. But when you go through some land and you till it and you break up all of the plants, and most importantly, you destroy all of the root structure of the plants that were in the soil, all of the nutrients that were held in this web. So around the roots, kind of like how in the body, everything has fascia. The whole body, everything is contained with fascia. Around your eyes, around your skin, everything has fascia. Every muscle, organ, it's like this connective tissue that keeps everything connected, and it's basically how the whole body is in. Inside the soil, the equivalent of the fascia that we have is this mycelial network. So it's basically like this massive underground spider web of yeasts that connect all of the roots of all of the different plants together. And this is basically like a superhighway that delivers nutrients, minerals, nitrogen, water, whatever it needs to go on. All of this trade kind of happens through this network, this mycelial network. And when you come along and you till the ground up, you break up all the root structure, you break up all of this mycelial network. And when you then plant something in, the whole network has to regrow and redevelop. And this is something that actually takes like years to really become a highly efficient network. And if you're tilling every single year, and even if a farmer leaves a field fallow, so the farmer doesn't grow something in the field for a year, he will still till it at the end. After all the weeds are grown, he still tills it to plant the next year. So this is happening all of the time. And when we lose this root structure in the soil and we lose this mycelial network that interconnects all of these things together, the soil basically loses its ability to hold on to nutrients. So it loses its ability to hold on to nitrogen. It loses its ability to hold on to all of the different minerals that are important to us. So it loses the ability to hold the magnesium, the zinc, the molybdenum, the boron, all of these really important trace minerals, that it can't hold them anymore. So unless you manually kind of spray all of these nutrients back on, which is what they do in conventional agriculture, even in organic agriculture, they will use like a nitrogen spray. Nitrogen is basically the nutrient that makes plants go green. It's not really that important for us, but it's what makes plants like grow like loads of green foliage. So it's really important because obviously the foliage on the plant is like a solar panel for the plant that basically gives it all the energy to grow the wheat or the potato or the whatever thing it is that we actually end up eating. So with both of these types of approach, whether it's the organic one, whether it's the conventional, you're still following this same methodology of breaking up all of the soil, which means you lose all of the nutrients, which means you have to add them all back in to get anything to grow. If you till all the soil and then you don't add a bunch of like chemical fertilizers or even organic fertilizers, and this could be like chicken poo or this can be natural compounds, but it's still an external input that has to be added in because nothing can grow, because there's none of the plants can access any nutrients because all the nutrients have already washed away, and the small amount of nutrients that are left, they're not connected, they're not plugged into this mycelial network. So there's no way for those nutrients to get to the plant. So they're basically just like useless. There's just nutrients in the soil that we can't actually access. First of all, it's really important to understand that this primarily impacts minerals. So this doesn't really impact vitamins that much. Like if you get the most premium, like homegrown tomato and you compare it to just a conventional tomato that you buy in the supermarket, the vitamin levels are basically the same. The polyphenol levels will be slightly lower. This is one reason that like if you have a homegrown tomato, it tastes completely different compared to a conventionally grown one. Some of that is due to the polyphenols. A lot of it is actually down to the minerals. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is why, again, homegrown always tastes better. It's not just because you put so much effort into growing it. It's because probably you don't till the soil as much, probably use more fertilizers, and maybe you even orient towards something like no-dig, where you're really trying to disturb the soil as little as possible, so you can keep that network active and keeping those minerals coming into those plants. So the real focus is the minerals. The protein content is roughly the same. The vitamins are roughly the same. The polyphenols, they're a little bit lower, but they're roughly the same. It's really the minerals that we need to focus on. And I really want to emphasize this because we know where we actually need to focus. We know that those other things haven't really been impacted that much, but it's the minerals that need to focus. So this is where we really want to look. So in terms of what do we do as like a species, like as how do we grow food in a way that's more sustainable and actually provides more nourishment, we basically need to move away from tilling. We need to avoid tilling as much as possible because it has a devastating effect. Not only does it do this, it has a huge impact on like greenhouse gases levels. It's, in my opinion, is far worse than like all of the cow farts in the world. Even root structures, plants hold lots of carbon in them. When you till, you just release everything. All of the carbon that's in the ground just comes out because you literally just like blending it up. So we need to find a way to move away from that. And doing that at scale is challenging. But one of the easiest things you can do is just grow some stuff yourself. Now, you don't have to have a massive garden. In fact, I actually do have a massive garden, and it's shocked me how hard it actually is to do everything. There is so much space. It feels impossible to get everywhere. There's always like 10 jobs that haven't been finished. So I actually would discourage you from trying to do something on like a very, very big scale. Instead, try growing like some microgreens at home, or like grow your own lettuce on your windowsill. Just like something like really simple and really easy. And this is actually going to top up your nutrient levels more than you might believe. So this is a really small thing, especially the microgreens. So this would basically be like, for example, doing your own broccoli sprouts at home, or making like for example, maybe in the UK, you buy cress, you buy it in the supermarket, and it's in like a little tub, and it's basically just like little seeds that have germinated into like a little sap, like a little tiny like sapling thing. It's basically just make these sorts of things at home. You can do pea shoots. You could do broccoli sprouts. There's lots of different things you can do, but these little tiny things, they have very high nutrient levels inside the seeds themselves. And when you sprout them, you actually make them very digestible, really easy for your body to access those nutrients. And these things don't actually even require soil. Obviously, if you wanted to like grow your own strawberries on a windowsill, or like have like one tomato plant, or maybe do some lettuce or something, you're obviously going to need to grow them in soil there, and just focus on getting a good soil. Maybe consider making your own compost. That's also something really cool that you could do. And then you're basically recycling and concentrating all of the nutrients in those food scraps into soil that you can then eat and consume. And if we do this and we move away from this kind of like a big centralized food system, I'm under no like illusion that we can all just like grow our own food and just live by ourselves. That's just never going to happen. There are people that want to live in the city, and there are people that are supposed to live in the city. You know, the world is a very big place with lots of different people that need to do different things with their lives. But if you can grow a little bit of your own food yourself, it makes a really, really big difference. So don't focus on all the things you can't control and all the things you can't do. Focus on the small things that you can do. And if you do have a little bit more space, consider some really like low effort things, like having your own chickens. They're basically like passive once you've got them set up. They don't require that much tending. You can feed them all your food scraps, so it reduces waste. And the eggs that you get, they're technically more expensive than what you'd buy at the supermarket, but the nutrient levels in them is absolutely incomparable to even the best like organic or pastured eggs that you would buy in the supermarket. So if you can, do whatever you can at home. Genuinely serious, you do not need a lot of space. You just need like a little back garden, patio, or even like a little balcony. You know, I have friends and family that they don't have any land. They just have like a little balcony, or they're in an apartment and they're growing like a bunch of stuff. So you can do it. And honestly, it's actually quite a lot of fun. I find it quite relaxing, quite enjoyable. And the other thing that we can do is to try to supplement these minerals. So there's actually two different products that I would consider trying. The first is literally a trace mineral product. However, you have to make sure you get a good quality one, because there are lots of trace mineral products that I see, and often these are the ones that are like ionic, like sea salt based minerals, and I find that the amount of minerals in them is just too low. It's like a 1/10 dose of what you would really need or less, and it just doesn't have a significant impact. My recommendation would be something called the Trace Mineral Complex from Seeking Health. So this has got a lot of the really important trace minerals in quite high doses. It's got your iodine, your selenium, copper, zinc. These are all really, really important trace minerals. It's got some of the really tiny trace minerals like the vanadium, the molybdenum, chromium, these like really, really tiny ones that have a really, really big impact. In fact, I actually have a full video talking about this specific product because I personally found it to be like quite a game changer for me. And this was, again, one thing that led me to like trying to do a little bit more research and understanding, well, why is it that I would feel so much better taking a trace mineral product? Because I've been trying to eat organic, like grass-fed and pastured, and I really try to get the best quality stuff. Like, why do I still not have enough nutrients? And well, when you understand, yeah, you buy organic beef, but all that means is there's a cow that's living basically inside all day, and it's fed organic grain. So they feed it like organic wheat, organic corn, organic soy. So it's organic, but that organic stuff is still grown in tilled soil that doesn't have any nutrients or any minerals left in it. So there's no minerals in the cow because it's eating food that doesn't have any minerals in it. So it's facing the same problem that you are. Whereas if you do get grass-fed and pastured, regenerative agriculture, you get land that's being worked and you've got the cows that are pulling on it and they're not tilling it, you will get higher nutrient levels. So do the best you can. But I know not everybody can afford like grass-fed ribeye, like 5 times a week. You know, it's just not realistic. And if you can do that and that's working for you, then awesome. But for most people, it just isn't. The other thing that you could try would be something like Shilajit. So Shilajit is a mineral resin, and it's actually really high in a lot of the really tiny trace minerals. So not so much in sort of like a therapeutic dose in terms of things like the copper, the zinc, the selenium, those sorts of things, but the really teeny tiny trace minerals. And the thing about these really teeny tiny trace minerals is they're already trace minerals in the soil. They're already in really tiny low levels, which means when we disrupt the soil, these are the ones that we lose first. These are the ones that we have the most significant loss of. Some of the bigger macro minerals like potassium, magnesium, copper and zinc, we'll have a little bit more of these compared to these really teeny tiny trace minerals. So if you combine something like Shilajit as a mineral resin to cover those like really, really tiny, tiny doses of the really small trace minerals. And then something like this trace mineral complex from Seeking Health to cover the bigger or the more macro trace minerals like the iodine, selenium, zinc, copper, etc. That should give you everything that you need that is missing from the soils today. So what do I actually do? I actually do all of the above. I do all of these things. I take the trace mineral complex. I actually use this product. I take a Shilajit product. I don't use it all the time. I pulse it like 1 month on, 1 month off. If you are going to buy Shilajit, make sure you buy a really good product because it can get contaminated with heavy metals. And there are also a lot of fake products as well. So you really want to make sure you're getting it from a reputable brand that's like third party tested and blah, blah, blah. You know, all of that stuff. I'm sure you're good at sourcing supplements by now. And I'm growing some food for myself. We're planning to get chickens sometime in the very near future. I've just planted a whole bunch of corn in the garden. We're going to make corn flour out of it. We've got tomatoes growing, potatoes, we have peppers, peas. We have a whole bunch of different stuff, loads of different types of squash, some melons and watermelons. I've planted a whole bunch of stuff, but I also find this fun and I also have the ability to do this now. And you don't have to do all of that. Honestly, it really amazed me how much food I was able to grow in literally like a 1 by 1 meter square. It is really, truly insane. And if you've never actually tried it, I would really consider like try and grow something small. Do some microgreens at home. Try and sprout your own broccoli sprouts. Try and make your own pea shoots. Try and grow your own cress, or consider having like a strawberry plant or a tomato plant that you can put on your sunniest windowsill. And if you are doing any of these things, if you are growing anything, let me know below. Let me know if you've got your own space outside. Let me know if you have chickens. Let me know if you're growing something on your windowsill. I'm really interested, and it will also be really nice to share with other people so they can get an idea of what you're doing. One thing I really love about growing food is what you're going to grow depends on where you live and also what you're living in. You know, if you're living in a caravan, for example, probably you're going to be growing different things from someone that has a 10-acre farm. So whatever it is that you've got going on, I'd be really interested to hear. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you're growing. Let me know what's working seasonally where you are. And also, if you don't mind, let me know where you're from so I can understand what you're growing and where you're growing at. So I hope that today's video explained this problem with the minerals in the soil. It is a bit of a complex issue, and I don't know how we're going to fix it in the long term, like for the broader scale of society. But in the short term, grow some of your own food, maybe get some backyard chickens, and focus on getting some kind of trace mineral product and something to get those tiny, tiny, tiny trace minerals, something like Shilajit. So that's everything for me today. Hope you found it really interesting and helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.